Hello and good afternoon. Unfortunately, I don't have my friend Scout with me today, but he's here in our thoughts. He's not dead. That sounded wrong. He's just at home. Anyways, we have some huge stimulus bill news today. We have some PPP round 2 news for anyone who's self-employed, independent contractor, sole proprietors. Some really important dates are coming up soon, and we have some EIDL round 2 news. So starting off with the huge stimulus bill news, Biden is planning to release a stimulus plan, a comprehensive stimulus plan this evening around 7 p.m. or so. So let's cover everything we know about this deal as of right now. So right now they're saying the package will be narrowly targeted. Now they say narrowly targeted, but this will still be a pretty darn big bill. We're like in the world of huge spending bills now. So we're looking at around $2 trillion or less, but they're calling that narrowly targeted, where if you asked us a year ago, that would be a massive spending bill. So the marker as to what a huge bill is just kind of getting higher and higher as time passes. But because Biden campaigned as a bipartisan deal maker, they're eyeing something between $1 and $2 trillion in hopes to get some conservative and more moderate votes on board and get this deal passed without too much fighting and too much bickering. But don't worry, $1 to $2 trillion is still plenty of money to get relief out there. Just for example, to get $1,400 checks to all of the 150 million or so eligible Americans, that would cost around $210 billion. So there's enough money there to send out $1,400 checks almost 10 times over in a $2 trillion bill. So it seems his plan is to try and pass a narrow bill and then shoot for a huge spending bill, or try to pass a narrow bill, and if that doesn't work, bump it up to a huge spending bill. I'll explain that just in a second here. But this comes at a really good time because last Tuesday, was actually the new record high for COVID deaths in the United States. So of course we're in a crisis right now. Jobs are actually on the downswing. COVID cases are on the upswing. Hopefully the vaccine helps a little bit with that. But more relief, according to most economists and of course Democrats, is very needed right now, and action is needed right now. But Biden yesterday acknowledged that the Senate has a lot going on right now, and just adding a stimulus deal to that calendar of things to do just adds to that. And really, they have a lot to cover. I mean, once Biden is in office, the Senate will, around the 19th, begin confirming the cabinet seats for Biden, which is a long process. They may potentially be hearing impeachment trials for Trump and then voting on that, which can also be quite a long process. And then we may add stimulus debates and a potential vote on top of that, which we know can take months potentially. Hopefully that's not the case, but they have a ton on their plate right now, which isn't great in terms of getting a bill passed, but hopefully given the pressures, we'll know an answer to that at least quicker than this last bill anyways. So here's what Biden's targeted bill will likely include, everything we know as of right now. So we're seeing a heavy focus for vaccine and just virus efforts. So we're likely going to see a sprawling campaign for vaccine production and distribution. Distribution especially has been a huge problem in recent times, where we have stockpiles of vaccines, but they're just not being administered at the rates that we had hoped. And this really just comes down to lack of locations offering these services, lack of people who can administer them, just overall logistical problems that happen when you're trying to administer millions of these vaccines, and then you have to do them twice. So that right there doubles the amount of times people need to come in and get this shot administered. So also, as part of this virus campaign, we'll see some public awareness campaigns, I guess, promoting the vaccine and maybe showing effectiveness, risks, concerns. Hopefully, these are very transparent about everything having to do with these. We're also going to see hiring just for people to administer these vaccines, and training to get more people who are able to administer these vaccines, and just many other efforts to get as many people vaccinated as possible. We're also going to likely see a child tax credit. Now, this is really interesting because I haven't actually heard this mentioned anywhere until today. So Final numbers have not been released yet, but it's looking like it'd be similar to a pledge that Biden made a little while ago while he was campaigning to provide money for families with children. So that initial pledge he made was to provide $300 a month to households with children under 6 years old, and then $250 a month for households with children between the ages of 6 and 17. So that would come out to $3,600 a year for every child under 6 and $3,000 a year for every child between 6 and 17. Again, we don't have all the details or the numbers here. This could fluctuate either up or down, and we don't have a time frame either, but we know that they are showing us the numbers in the terms of year time frame. So I would expect to see if it's in a bill, it probably will be at least 1 year or through the end of 2021 or something like that. So that's going to be a really interesting one to keep an eye on, and we should know more about this evening, the exact numbers and timeframes and things like that. So make sure you're subscribed so I can let you know as soon as I know the most up-to-date details on this, because I know that's going to be really exciting for a lot of families who are, of course, in need right now. Maybe your income is down or you have bills to pay. This, of course, would bring a lot of relief to those families. However, just looking at this negotiation-wise, that might be a tough aspect to pass through moderate and conservative lawmakers because, of course, they want to limit spending as much as possible, and I can already just hear them saying, what if we're giving money to families who don't need money? What about a family who earns $100,000 a year? They probably don't need an extra $350 or $300 a month. So we know there's going to be arguments like that. So it'll be really interesting to see how that pans out in the debates. On top of this, we can also expect to see another round of stimulus payments. We're very likely going to see them at $1,400. There's a small possibility that it'll be $2,000 additional, so like $2,000 on top of the $600 payment, but far more likely $1,400 payments. And that's almost a guarantee that we'll see that in the bill because, people just love stimulus checks. Most Democrats want it. If not all, most Republicans want it. Most voters want it. It's a very popular item on the docket, so we'll very likely see that, and likely at $1,400. We're also going to see an expansion of unemployment boosts from March to September of 2021. So, of course, these unemployment boosts were only extended by 11 weeks under the last stimulus bill, which will run out fairly soon, and we'll see that addressed as well. We will very likely see more increased SNAP benefits and other food assistance programs, which, according to research, is one of the best ways to stimulate the economy. We're going to see more funding for schools, and that was another one that was addressed in the latest $900 billion stimulus bill. We saw funding for upgraded HVAC systems and things like that. So we're going to see more funding for schools in this bill as well. And like I said, Biden's goal is to first try a bipartisan approach and see if Republicans and other moderates will go for it. And then if this doesn't work, it seems like he's going to take a more aggressive approach afterwards. So what they're going to do is they're going to try out this small bill, see if they'll go for it. If not, they're going to switch over to a much larger spending bill and use budget reconciliation in the Senate, allowing them to pass something with a 51 vote majority. And then, as we know, if it's split 50-50, the tiebreaker will be Vice President Kamala Harris, and they will get that deal passed. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens and how this will be negotiated for those who are hoping to limit spending as much as possible. And of course, there are legitimate concerns with spending too much. We don't want to increase the deficit to such a crazy level. We have to mind inflation. There are limits to these things. It's just all about finding the right amount to stimulate the economy and not have too many negative side effects. But it seems like the more moderate and conservative lawmakers, they have kind of two choices. Either they accept that smaller bill, the $1 to $2 trillion bill, or they decline the smaller bill, but risk a much larger bill. Like we might see something 2 times as large pass, which of course is the opposite of what they want. That'd be double the spending and double the potential effects that they're most worried about. So it puts them kind of in a corner. One thing that might prevent a huge bill from passing, even with the aggressive approach, would be if more moderate Democrats don't want it. If even just 1 or 2 moderate Democrats vote against a very huge stimulus bill in the Senate, that kind of throws everything off and will make it much harder for them to pass something huge. So that's everything we know on the stimulus bill for this evening. I will tell you more about it as soon as we have the information on it. Before we move on to Paycheck Protection Round 2 news, make sure you take advantage of the link in my description for Webull, where you can get 2 free stocks with a $100 deposit. It's an awesome deal. Just check it out, link in the description. All right, Paycheck Protection Round 2 news. This is huge for anyone self-employed, small businesses, independent contractors. This applies for you. So starting January 15th, lenders with fewer than $1 billion in assets can begin Paycheck Protection Round 2 funding. And then it'll be open for all other institutions on Tuesday, January 19th. So very soon. So because this opens very soon, you want to be prepared as soon as possible. Understand how the application works, what documents you need alongside the application. There's too much to explain in this video, but I have a video that breaks down all of the second round of PPP funding, everything you need to do to make sure you have the documents in place and apply on time. I'll have that linked. And also, if you haven't yet applied for PPP Round 2, you still can apply for the first round, use that funding, and then get the second round. So I also have a video that explains how to get the first round of funding, which I'll have linked as well. So this is huge for anyone who's self-employed or a business owner, anything like that. Also, if you happen to need a lender, I'll have one linked in the description that I've been working closely with as well. And now we have the EIDL Round 2. So the portal for the second round of EIDL grants is set to open on Sunday, the 17th of January, very soon for first-time appliers. This is people who did not receive the grant or the loan the first time around. You'll be able to apply. If you already received the grant, the SBA is required to notify you if you can receive more funding. How this will work is, let's say you received a $1,000 grant, you may be able to receive the difference between $1,000 and $10,000 as long as the area you live in is considered a low-income area. So the SBA is required to tell you if you can apply for more funding or not, or if that funding is available to you. And this time around, also, if you apply, the SBA is required to tell you why you may or may not qualify. So there's some opportunity there to send a rebuttal if, for whatever reason, they decline you and it's not accurate. So that's going to do it for today. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't already, and of course, have a profitable day.